much money does it cost to solve homelessness? And this is a complex thing because in some ways we've spent money to create homelessness. We've passed legislation. We send out, the police. We, tell people you can't sleep here, you can't do this. We hire security guards. So we're actually spending money to create homelessness, because the definition of a home, 500 years ago we had Native Americans living contentedly in teepees without building permits, without health departments. Our ancestors 500 years ago could apparently live their lives and figure it out with more freedom and dignity than many of us can today. And it's just the nature of all authorities, in this case government, to expand and expand and expand, and ultimately get on everyone's nerves and get in the way in many respects. So if we just cut out the health department, if we cut out the building department, if we cut out laws that said it's not we're not allowed to be homeless here and this, and if we instead put a tenth of that money into helping people mediate good neighbor relationships and just making sure that people were safe. It's kind of a little bit of a contradiction in ideology, because we're a capitalist country, and the entire framework that says that capitalism is good is this: people will always act in their own best interest over time. Therefore, free markets are better than restricted markets. This is the whole fundamental underpinnings of capitalism. So we go ahead and say that on the one hand, and so we deregulate banks and this, and that, and the other. We have all kinds of stuff with the stock market, etc. And then we turn around and say people are so dumb that if they can possibly manage it, they'll poison themselves with water. They'll eat raw sewage. They will build houses that fall down so they can die in an earthquake. In other words, we say the opposite, that we have got to, police the hell out of people living in their own house, because if you give them half a chance, they'll ruin their whole life. Well, how does the person who always acts intelligently around markets, an abstract fabrication of humanity called money, turn around and always act destructively when it comes to eating and drinking and putting up a house? There's no basis for this apparent, this apparent thing, but I guess the only thing is free markets actually work in many ways better than constricted markets, and a government allows markets to work effectively so they can tax them, so that they can then pay for their ineffective housing policies, which don't work, but which give lots of jobs to bureaucrats to enforce, policies that don't work very well. The reality is that if all housing-related laws just vanished, there would be an abundance of low-cost housing all over the place. Now, there would be other problems. There would be more neighbors' squabbles, but it could also be, templated out, meaning rather than having to wait 3 years for a $30,000 permit, there could be two classes, and this is one of the things that I think is quite important if we're to let the private sector actually solve this. I suggest that anything that rents for less than $500 a month be exempted from anything other than that its details are posted in photos and video online and pinned to that address, so that anyone who wants to can look at the brands of the water filters, the brands of this, that, and the other, what the design is, and can make an informed decision. So that would be one way, a money pin. It could also be a money pin and anything that's less than 20 feet off the ground, that doesn't weigh more than 30 tons, something like that, so that you basically set a limit, that it's very clear it's designed to address low-cost housing, anything under $500 a month in rent is low-cost housing. The average rental in Marin for an apartment is like $2,500 a month. So $500 is low-cost housing. And you just say anything that's renting for low, you do whatever you want as long as you're not creating these safety hazards. And we'll only look into it if someone actively complains and shows that they're harmed, and they have to pay for the complaint if they're not being harmed. You set it up so that it's in the favor of low-cost housing, and the market takes care of itself. So we're actually killing our people by spending tax money to make sure that all of these low-cost solutions are absolutely illegal. And so we're actually spending money to make things worse.